Hello, my name is Maurice Washington. I want to welcome everybody to another episode of Executive Talk. Those who are watching live and those who are listening later on our podcast, thank you so much for joining us. In today's segment, we're going to talk about the year-end financial review. Obviously, this time of the year is when everybody is really stressing out about their year, things that have went well, things that have not went so well. This is the opportunity for us to actually really dig in and talk about what it means to actually do a year-end financial review and the mindset that it goes into actually doing it, so that way next year you're actually successful. So with us today to talk to us about this is Kerri Farren with Summit Global Financial Wealth to talk to us again a little bit further about this. So without further ado, let's go ahead and welcome Kerri Farren. How you doing, Kerri?
I'm doing just wonderful today, but just wanted to start off and say I was getting over a little bit of a cold, so I'm kind of sounding a little muffy, whatever today. But other than that, I'm doing great.
All right, that's good. That's good. We're not going to judge you. We're going to support you and know that you're all right.
Yes.
Kerri, when we talk about the year-end financial review, as I alluded to just a second ago, this is for some, it's a good time. They're happy and excited about what they're reviewing and what they're seeing. For some, they're not too excited about what they're seeing because this has been one heck of a year for a lot of people. In your point of view, what have you seen, and what kind of conversations are you having at this time of the year?
That's a great question because it's so different from one extreme to the other. We have some people that are thinking this is the greatest year we've had. Everything's going well. It all depends on the people's views on the news, on what their returns of their investments have been, what other people have said, all things like this. So you've got people that are really thinking it was a great year, and you have other people that are really scared and concerned about what's going on. They're seeing the market doing well, but everything else with prices and everything like that, it's kind of stressing them out. So I think one thing that keeps the people in these positions is their mind, for one thing, and what they're hearing outside. So everybody has a different view. And so I've seen from one extreme to the other this last year. It's been wild.
Even for you, right? It's been hard for you to keep up on what's going on.
Exactly.
I'm
Talk
assuming.
about a roller
Yeah.
coaster.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Well, let's get into it. Let's talk about this first topic that you provided for us, and this is key. And these bullet points that you have for us is key financial lessons from this year, from inflation, interest rates, market shifts, how to analyze what worked and what didn't work in your financial plan, and also the importance of a year-end financial checkup, your investments, your debt, et cetera, et cetera. So, talk to us a little bit further why this one is where you want us to start.
So this slide is great. It's we're going to talk about three different things on here, from regular things that's going on in the market, which is not going to be talked about specifically because, again, everybody looks at it differently. But I just want to talk about a few things that was noticed the last year, and then how we're putting that into how we analyze back for the year. So just some few things that people, are seeing on here is one of the things that happened last year was our inflation. It's going up and down, mostly up, but it's not going in a straight line. It's never smooth. And this is normal because some months improved and others didn't. And that's how inflation usually behaves. So people are seeing this again in different views. Their mind is thinking good or bad. But that's one thing that we saw. The other is the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is moving carefully. Again, we just had another lower interest rate. So what that's doing is kind of cooling off the inflation while protecting the job market. And again, this is looked at from two different ways. And then, of course, the job market has been cooling down, but it isn't a crisis. It's the economy returning to normal after several unusually strong years, which we did have. And then finally, the one that is a thing that people are looking at are these tariffs that have been going on. It's still getting questioned like crazy. Some people think it's great and it's in the long run, it's going to be perfect. But others right now are stressed out about it because prices have gone up. It's around the holidays. So things like this are coming along. But when we just looked back at past history and thinking of what's going to be in the future, all of this stuff kind of comes out the same at the end of every year because things change and people look at it differently. So that's on the one part about just the lessons that we learn. And this is one thing, if people want to know more about these in details, when we look at opinions, I'm, definitely want to talk about that. And, and just kind of leave it on that, but just some things to look at. And then what I want our clients to do is analyze what worked with these things and these stresses or happiness or whatever that we've had with all this stuff. We want to have people look back at their goals and analyze them as what's achieved, what's on track, or what needs attention. Don't look at the good or bad. You're not wrong or right, but we want to look back and see how close we are at the goals that we've had and how our thoughts on all of these financial lessons that we've had, how they've combined, worked together, didn't work together, things like that.
When it comes to the analyzing, is this something that people, because to me in history, people that I've heard typically they analyze their year, their financial plan based on how they feel at the end of the year. Because this is typically about the time when, of course, people are looking at Christmas or looking overall, where's my money? I don't have any savings account. Depression seems to increase during this time, and it's typically because of financial reasons. Mm-hmm. So when this analyzing, that tells me that people have a monthly goal that they're achieving. Are people following a monthly plan, or are they just going off the feeling of they don't have what they wanted, what they expected to?
I think there's a percentage of yes and no on that. And I've seen it in different kinds of people, and the kind of money that they have is the way that people look at differently. The people that have been looking more, living paycheck by paycheck, or more of the average income, and with the prices going up, it's been tight. People every month have been changing their plans. However, what they're looking at is the stress that it's causing, the change of the income, the unexpected expenses, the market volatility. All of these things are all emotional decisions. And so this stresses people out. But one thing that I wanted to talk to people about too is let's go back. And even though the plan wasn't set right and things changed monthly, let's go and capture your wins that you had. Because I know that some of these times when things have gone bad, there's always something good that's come out of it, because things change. And I think what's good for the clients and other people is to look at that, because yes, it's been up and down, things have been tight, and people change their plans every month and it doesn't work out. But always look back at things like if you've increased any of your savings, if any of your debt's gone down, if you've stayed invested during the volatility, look at the good things, and it kind of says, okay, even though my plan kind of got off track, I did achieve a few of these things. So this is good.
Okay. All right. Well, then let's talk about setting financial goals for the year. And here's some points, and it probably is going to raise some other questions that we have talked about before. But how to set realistic and measurable financial goals, aligning money goals with life goals, retirement, travel, family, career change, the SMART goal framework, and how to apply it financially. Which one? Talk to us, take us down this list and talk to us about each one, because I know this one is huge, especially realistic and measurable financial goals. How does one actually achieve a realistic, measurable goal?
I believe that when people are looking at their goals for the year, I see two different kinds of people in this. One is they make their goals too easy. Let's put it that way. They make it too easy so that they can all reach them. However, if they make them a little bit more, they're still achievable, but a little bit more over that, give yourself a little bit of higher risk, higher, goals, then that I think makes people really want to achieve them better. And then they feel a lot better than just some easy goals that happen all the time. And these easy goals might not put them on the track that they want anyway because they're too easy. So I really think when people look at that and want to decide what's realistic or what can happen is seeing a bigger picture and getting bigger goals.
Okay.
It does say, in that we're looking down here at SMART, is being more specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So when we look at it, it does say measurable and achievable. So you do want to be able to get there. But if you make it a little bit higher than what you really think would be easy, I think puts yourself at a better position to achieve more than you want. So I kind of put that in more of an example. Let's say my running. So I go to run a marathon and I want to look at it specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. I don't want to go in there and say that my achievable, measurable is, oh yeah, I can get this done 4 hours. Well, I know I can do much better than that. But if I set it for 4 hours, then it's like, oh, I know I can do it. It's going to be easy and I'm going to feel good because I went past my goal, but I know I can do better. So it's things like that to look at that I think is more achievable, more goal setting. And I think you can get higher on your goals than you expected and feel good about it.
Okay. Let me throw this semi curveball. You're setting financial goals and for the year, right? And you're thinking about this realistic and measurable financial goals. This is typically when January hits. People are excited. They've gone through that December depression and then came on in January, said, you know what, I'm going to rock this year. It's going to be amazing. 2026, 2027 is my year. I'm going to do this. And this is typically how people go into the year, right? So you're doing this. Well, then we have this issue start to come up. You didn't plan and you didn't realize this because, typically you don't see as much aggressive volatility as we've seen this year. We've had conversations about this all year, but then you get hit with inflation, then you get hit with job losses, then you get hit with now that, things are not moving exactly where you had planned them. Let's say you have a pattern of not actually hitting your financial goals each year. So then when you come down to making SMART goals, it almost feels as if you don't want to get disappointed. And you know how people are when they don't want to get disappointed. What do? Don't create goals. So how do you get people out of that rut when something is not consistently going the direction that you had foresaw, in that beginning of that year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good question too. We talk to people, I know, and it can get very stressful. I mean, I'm one of them that looks back. Sometimes I'm not usually right on my goals either, hitting it, and it can get frustrating. But people have to know right off the bat, for one thing, change.
Okay.
Things happen. It's not going to go as steady and perfect as everybody thinks because it's not. Every day something can change.
Right.
And I do believe that during that time, you might have your goals for that month, but those goals are not set to be set and not changed. So as you're going along, you can kind of use a different direction for those goals. One thing that I always think about is when I'm looking at it is like darts. Everybody wants to hit right in the middle, but it usually never happens. But people go with, unless you're an expert, which I am not. So it's exciting when it goes in the middle. But that's kind of how these changes are. Every month, something could be different, but you have to realize you can get closer, but you want to look at it in a different direction, make the changes you need to, but don't ever get off your long-term track. Keep looking at year end and see how you're going every month and see what kind of changes you need to be able to get there. And I think if people would be more, and it's very hard to say, but if people wouldn't take things so personal and hard on themselves, then it would be a lot easier for people to make the changes. So what I do kind of as the advisor that I am for my people is try to see on the other side and help them through that logically and not personally,
Sure.
because things like that can change. But just helping people through that. Let's look at it monthly, make the changes needed, but look at long term, know what you're heading for. And this can be less stressful than people really think.
Okay. Something just occurred to me, and then we'll go on with the next point. When we're talking about this, we're talking about inflation, interest rates. We're talking about market shifts. We're talking about volatility as a whole. If you know this is the history of the years and how they typically go, wouldn't it be realistic and measurable for you to, in coming into the next year, start to factor in volatility? So instead of reacting to these things, it seems like life is actually giving you a history as to what's going to come up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually telling you, all right, now set your goals at this type of, at a high interest rate lifestyle. Set your goals at a high volatility. Set your goals around your portfolio instead of just being locked into one investment. Wouldn't that be the new mental shift in this time? If you're seeing for the past 5 years that, okay, let's say the market is really good, but then it drops, that's still a volatility. Should you start setting your goals where things are higher, so that way you're actually already expecting that particular volatility to occur? I mean, wouldn't that be the new mindset?
That does make a lot of sense. It's something that I really didn't think about till you just said that, because I'm thinking of higher goals. But if you do want to look at the last 5 years or so, and this is what's happened, and because things are so crazy now that they're for sure going to happen, that makes a lot more sense. Because, for instance, and I just read about something like this the other day about, actually, it's a test I had to take, a test I had to take to keep on going with, in business, we got to do our courses. And one of the questions was, did your client count for inflation? And if the inflation was too high, did they match their goal? And of course, that answer was no, because they didn't count it. And so that's a very good question you had. And I'm glad that I was going to pass that test, because we just had.
Well, there's the answer right there when you take the test.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of going off here a minute, but that's funny you say that. But yeah, people really need to start looking at the possibilities of the change with inflation, with costs, which are going, I think, crazy right now, costs of things around the holidays. So I think that's a very good point that you've made, is being able to realize that what the money is worth today may not be what the dollar's worth in the future. And so you really need to put that into perspective.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, good. And, we're getting warmed up here, folks. We still have some more points. And the next point that we have is investment outlook, and also strategy refresh. What's expected in the economy and markets next year, how to rebalance and diversify your changing conditions, managing risk versus opportunity, especially for retirees and pre-retirees, understanding interest rates impacts on portfolios. Take this away, Kerri, because I know this one really gets you going.
Yeah, because it gets into things too. It's like I really want to get into detail on some of these things, but of course, I don't have the time today. And also, second, a lot of these things are seen different from every single person. And so it's good to just have one-on-one conversations when it comes to this. But what I talked about before was on the first slide there with what had the last year been. I like to look at what the next year is going to look like. And it's kind of like you can't assume that either, but it looks like it's going to be, to me, and from what I've read and things that I've seen, is it's going to continue as it's going this next year that we had the last year. It's going to be very fluctuating. There's going to be changes. There's going to be a lot of volatility, but we're used to that now. And it's like you said on the last one, people need to look back at what we have, and we're used to this now. So when we want to look at that, we want to diversify and rebalance. And rebalancing a lot of the things is one of the things that people don't understand, and they freak out when the market is the selling high, buying low. People, again, this has to come to mind over your feelings, is to understand when the market's going down, don't get out. Let's start looking at on ways to rebalance that. If you take it out, you can lose big on some of the opportunities coming up. Some of the other ones is to work on shifting between your stock categories, bond exposure, alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
There are options out there to diversify that can help people see that in a different view. So again, it's kind of going back to, let's rebalance. Let's look at the goal again. Let's look at the options, because there's always something good out there, even if the market's going down. There's always some good investments while others are going down. And that's what we're able to help with, that is to rebalance and find those out. But you have to have the same goals that you have before. And let's look at you're managing your risk and your different levels of stress. So that's kind of a lot right there on, again, it keeps going to mental thoughts on how these things can be worked on. But you just have to look at things like that. When interest rate goes up, bonds go down, vice versa. Stocks go up, then they can go back down. Slower spending and corporate growth changes all that. It's just stuff like that on understanding that interest rate change. So, that's these investment strategies that we have that we're able to help with all this, is the diversity that we're able to do, giving the different risk and opportunities in there, and just understanding how the market's going so that your personal feelings hopefully can change more to your regular goals and objectives, and not being seen too emotionally. That's what our goal is, to help with that and just help explain what's going to happen in the future with change. So I hope that all makes sense. I was kind of thinking about that, on how to talk to people about that, but hopefully that made sense.
Yeah, actually, it does make a lot of sense. And, Kerri, when I look at the last two slides and I listen to what you just said, and I look at this particular one, this is what comes up to me. It says investment outlook and strategy refresh. And I think that I feel like, actually, I don't think, I know that refresh is the key word here. And to me, that's a mental refresh. Right now, in this moment, folks, this is Kerri telling us to get out of our emotions. The year is a year, is done. What's done is done. But refresh. Now that we have the information, now that we now know, let's refresh and let's look at next year differently. Let's get aggressive now. So when you do any type of mental refresh, that's an opportunity for you to get aggressive and get proactive. And let's go ahead and take a few keywords out of here that Kerri was mentioning. You know what's expected in the economy and the markets. It's going to be volatile. It's going to be a lot of things that you're not expecting. That's good, because now you know that you need a portfolio. You need to talk to Kerri in regards to what you're diversified to actually manage your risk. Rebalance, diversify. All right. So know that changing conditions are already coming up. Manage your risk and look at opportunity. So now a refresh is, I know what my risks are, but I need Kerri, a person like Kerri, to talk to me about what the new opportunities are. How do I do this better next year so I'm not in a funk like I am this year? So now with all that, understand the interest rates and the impact on portfolios and get that averaged out. And now you have a good outlook. Now you're actually excited about going into next year and knowing what you're doing. And this type of refresh will position you to get out of your emotions and stay aggressive all year long. That's my thought that I wanted to throw in there, Kerri. Is that a good way of looking at it and transitioning at this point?
Yeah, I believe so. And your wording today has been much better than mine. I think some of this cold is going to my head. I think, I don't know, but I love the way you explained all that and kind of went over what I talked about, and I agree with everything you said.
Okay. Well, now that we're in this mental shift, let's talk about retirement and long-term planning, because this one is something that we're going to talk about, that we talked about consistently here this year, and that we're going to talk about consistently next year, because this is all part of the grand picture. So retirement and long-term planning, we have updating retirement projections for inflation and longevity, catch-up contributions, Roth versus traditional decisions, reviewing Social Security and Medicare strategies, and also planning for health care and long-term care costs. Kerri, go ahead and take us down, as you have been, with how we need to look at this.
Okay, so this is all really good information, good questions, and really looking at how to help people with some of these things. So when you're updating your retirement projections for inflation and longevity, that is one thing that you had just brought up a little bit more, as in we're looking at our goals and plans. Let's put in inflation and these different things so that it gives us a more realistic number. So every year, in fact, I would think every quarter, you want to update your projections for the inflation and longevity to make sure you're on the right path, that you're going for the right destination and going for your goals that you have. So you always want to be able to update those. And like I said, quarterly look at things to make those changes. Some of these changes can be made up, like the next one, catch up on your contributions, your Roth versus your traditional decisions, things like that, to help with your taxes at the end of the year. And again, I'm not a tax pro. I just know that being able to do your contributions will definitely help with that and give you the idea of your investment in the future. And on that, the Roth versus traditional decisions, those are things when it comes to tax also, and helping out with that. And definitely a CPA can help you with that. The reviewing your Social Security and Medicare strategies. One thing people are really saying is that Social Security isn't going to be around. And to a point, people believe that. To other people, don't believe that. So what I say when I look at Social Security is keep getting an update on what it looks like you're going to have, and use that as a retirement plan, but use that as like the frosting on the cake or the cherry on the top, however people look at it, as your extra income on that, but don't depend on it. But be a little more positive, I think, because I don't think it's totally going to be gone. You also have your Medicare strategies that be able to work and understand and learn what those are to be helpful in your retirement. And then the biggest one that I see on here is your health care and long-term care costs. I've talked to a lot of clients that when they say they're retired, they're going to be using less money because, one, their house is sold, all of these other things are taken care of, and they think that they're not going to spend as much money. So they don't plan on having more money when they're retired. And I have learned from experience that the health care definitely will go up, and your long-term care costs have a huge chance of going way up. And that's something that we really need to look at when you're doing your financial strategy, is to be able to make sure that those are added in on there, because I've talked about my dad a lot on some of these other presentations that we've done, or these talk shows that we've done. And I learned right away how important that long-term care amount of money that you need is. Very, very important, because of the healthcare you're going to need in the future. So one thing that I really like to look at with my clients are all four of these, to really look at the best ways to have your future set for you, are all important. But that last one is extremely, extremely important. And if that's the only thing I can help you with, then that's a priority. And that's what I love to do, because it's very important. I can't explain it enough. But these are the four things you're going to really want to look at the end of the year, and do these quarterly planning projections to really understand where you are and where you need to go.
That's fair, Kerri. And, when we talk about get aggressive, this is, if we want to refresh and get aggressive, the great thing about this year's volatility, this is going to sound weird, There is some great stuff that came out of it. It woke you up. It woke everybody up because it hit like a ton of bricks. Nobody expected for anybody to talk about or potentially tamper with the Social Security. That has never been a conversation. One thing that we do know about history is we're in a generation right now is that we're seeing a generation fall off, meaning the baby boomers. They were able to live on a specific income and it was affordable. We did that in a couple of shows ago, and it was affordable for them for Social Security to sustain them. We have shifted into a place of non-affordability, folks. That's the aggressive part of this particular show and this funk that we keep on coming into. We have shifted into a financial crisis of it's very unaffordable to just do the status quo. So your long-term planning and your retirement has to look different. As Kerri alluded to, let's go ahead and let's take on the healthcare. Healthcare, actually, your health is part of that healthcare. You're going to want to take care of it now because that healthcare cost and what potentially could be coming up, it may not be affordable as it used to. We have to start thinking on a lot of different levels that we weren't willing to do. We're thinking more, it seems like for us as Americans, we're thinking more on the lawns of freedom and everything's going to be all right. Well, once you get to that age when you can't make any major moves like you used to, that's the sign of too late. That's the sign of getting into a desperation point. But Kerri has always been talking about this planning. So think about, like she said, with Social Security, that's icing on the cake. How much do you actually need to actually retire? What is that number? And one of our last shows in that same particular program, she was talking about 2.6 million. When Kerri sits down with people and she has to expose these numbers, for a lot of people, what she had told me is that it's like a shell shock. It's like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Get out of my house. No, she's actually telling you what is actually happening. This is a long-term number that may have a lot of validity to it when the time comes to pass. Meaning, yes, your house is paid off, but like Kerri had mentioned before, that house actually needs service now. It's going to be affordable for you to live in that house. What moves are you going to be able to make? If it is being into a care facility, are you going to be able to afford $10,000, $12,000 a month by the time you get to that place? So getting aggressive right now is really what we're getting to, is that a lot of our pains that we have every December is because we're still thinking on old school thinking. Well, my parents did this. Well, I'm okay today. Well, I just invested my Roth, so I should be fine. No, what does it mean to really be okay? And that is the type of conversations that if you haven't had those numbers, you might be throwing an illusion your way. And the worst thing, life throws enough, or being alive throws enough illusions your way. The worst illusion is when you actually create your own. And, I feel like at this particular time, when you think long-term and you think planning, you really have to look at how life is going. And I'll never forget this. And one of Kerri's show that we had, it has never gone down and become less expensive. Never. Something has always inflated to a high level. It's not going to come down, and instead of that house being $499,000, that 2-bedroom condo or 3-bedroom condo, no, that's the new norm. So it's just one of those things of we can't always expect things to deflate down to meet where we are. We got to be aggressive and keep on inflating up with it. And so to me, Kerri, that's what I've consumed from listening to you over this year. And to me, this is what really grabs my attention. Am I thinking along the right line, the right direction, or what?
Yeah, definitely. As you were sitting there, saying that, it was bringing other thoughts in my mind, when you were talking about our parents, our people before that were a little bit, it was very tight, but things were cheaper. And some of the people only had one of the parents working. So it was still tight, but they were able to have that money flowing. And one thing that I thought about was that my parents both retired at age 55, and they had a great retirement plan called Para here in Colorado. People,
That's right.
I'm sure, know about that. Um, and that plan has paid them. I remember when my dad passed, I looked at the Para, it had paid him over $2.5 million. And he had only put in maybe, I think when I looked at it, it was 250,000 during his retirement. And so what I was looking at is like, thank God that he had that. But if he wouldn't have had that, that's 2.5 million. That proved right there what that retirement is that you need to have. And that shows that things changed, because I don't see anybody retiring at 55 now and living. My mom's still live at 80. So what is that, 25? Yeah, 25 years that she's been able to use Para, and she only put about 100,000 in. So my whole point of the thing is that it is changed. We don't have those kind of benefits in most places anymore. I don't think Para runs as well as it did before. Pensions seem to be not very big anymore.
Right.
And so, and a lot of people are becoming today, they're becoming more entrepreneurs too. So they also don't have that corporate retirement plan. So things today, they have totally changed. People just need to save a lot more, and they need to look more into the future, because things aren't steady like they used to be. I shouldn't say steady back in my parents' time, but people would get a job, stay with the job for 30 years, take, the retirement plans they have, and then try to live happily ever after that. But the one thing that we did learn too on that is, because of the inflation, the retirement plan didn't grow, as the inflation did. The inflation went up, I don't know, let's say 3% a year, but Para only raised their income by like 1% a year. So even with that kind of retirement plan, people need to look at inflation. They're going to need a lot more 30 years from now or after they retire, that they need that extra money. And like I said, when I go talk to my clients and I give them the amount of money they need at retirement, and they like want to kick me out of the house, but I have experienced that. My dad got paid about $2.5 million. And he used that to pay all his bills. He didn't leave with much money left over. So that's reality. That's what I experienced. And that's what I'm seeing in a lot of clients, that some of them too think that they have 500 grand in their savings with their 401k, and they're going to retire in a couple years. Well, I hope your Social Security is huge, because you ain't going to make it. And I should not be smiling at this right now, because this is a very serious situation that people do not understand about the future. And this is why planning is needed so bad, to be able to stick to a plan that you're making, because you know how much you're going to need. And it's just so important that I could go on for a long time on all this, just because of experience that I had, personal and with my clients. And it never hit me as much as it did when it came personal with my parents, especially my dad. So I want to help my clients even more in a personal way, because I understand it a lot more, to be able to know how important it is for them. So that's when it comes to when I really feel like, yes, people, let's get this together. Let's make plans for the future and get this to work for you, because that's what I love about helping people, is to make sure they're on the right track.
And I want to go ahead and bring this back up, because this goes right along the line. So when you hear Kerri say what she's talking about as far as what your number actually is, then you come back and make smart goals. Then you start aligning your money goals with life goals. Then you actually understand what it means when Kerri's like, oh, one less trip this year. Right? She's not trying to take away your fun. She understands that things need to you need to get out and go experience life or whatnot. That's part of your passion and what you wanted to do. But when we talk about this long-term planning, when you actually start seeing the numbers and start connecting the dots to the reality, this actually helps you set the right realistic and measurable goals. It actually helps you look at a career change. It helps you understand that, oh, this is why I need to make this particular move or get this education piece to make that adjustment to increase the revenue that you need. This is how these smart goals actually come to pass, is when you actually start to see the picture. Because when Kerri just tells you stuff, it's going to feel like a threat. It's feel like she's just coming at you saying you need to do better. No, this long-term planning is serious. And again, the great thing about volatility, it makes you wake up and actually understand what you're up against. So that way you understand Kerri's shifts and suggestions are not coming from a place of, yeah, you forced to do this, but here's what the future, whether the future is good or bad, you better make sure you're here so that you're prepared. And it's all about preparation. So that's what we're going. So with all that being said, this is where the behavioral finance and mindset comes in, of how emotions and habits affect financial outcomes, building resilience in uncertain markets, and setting a financial theme or word of the year: simplify, build, and protect. Kerri, go ahead and take it away. What do you see?
The biggest point I see out of here, and I want to be on like the positive side of the best point about it here, is you're building resilience. I like that out of most of this is, and this is one thing that everybody still learns. I'm still learning on it, but focus on what you can control. You want to, you're seeing the news, you're seeing what's going on, you're seeing that all these markets are changing, you're seeing what the presidents are doing, you're seeing what your job's doing. I mean, all this stuff, but all of it in one way, you can't control it. So you need to keep a perspective, focus on your actions and not predictions, which are a lot of this is coming from the news, and accept the uncertainty is normal, like you just talked about. It's going to happen. That's just one thing you want to just keep looking at, and I keep that in mind, is focus on what you can control, and that's how you can save your money. That's how you can make the decisions on what's best for you. And like you said, people want to take vacations and they want to do all these things. Well, perfect. I want to go on vacations all the time, but put that into your plan. Just don't all of a sudden decide you're going to go somewhere. And I brought this up on one of our other talk shows, but I have a client that was totally determined, I'm going to start saving money. She's 55, no, 54. She's my age. And she's just starting to get ready to retire. And I'm like, she hasn't even started investment yet. So I remember, and I love her, and I'm going to help her as much as I can. But the minute she got some money saved in there, she like stressed out because of the market. And so she went on a vacation. She took the money on a vacation.
Yeah.
And I'm like, didn't we just talk 6 months ago about your goal of retirement at a certain age, and you really need to invest and save a lot of money? And we had to talk about that. And she said, yes, but it came back to my emotions and my fear. And so I wanted to take advantage of this trip as I did. And I just talked to her the other day. She's going to go to another country on another vacation next month. So anyway, that goes on. But it makes the point that you really want to be able to do what you want to do, but plan for it. Make sure it's on your plan for the future so that you can still do the fun things you want. Don't pass them by, but be able to still see your long-term strategy and be able to come close to your retirement when you want. Because then if you have the money on your retirement, then just think of what you can do in your retirement. You can take these trips that you wanted. If you have a family, you can go spend more time with your grandkids. You can actually do things if you have that strategy together and you're ready to retire, and you can do the things then. But I'm not telling people to stop and don't do anything now, because life is short and you might not make it past tomorrow. That's bad to say, but everybody knows, and then all the money that you had saved, you weren't able to use when you were living for your vacation. So you want to look at it both ways, but let's plan on it. Plan your future, but plan your present also, so that you have the life that you want to live. You know, we were put down here to enjoy our life. So let's do that.
That's fair. When I actually, let me ask for your permission. Can I let you know what I see out of this?
Of course. I'd never say no to you.
It's nothing but love. I feel it. All right, y'all. Here. Let me go ahead and go with this. You know, one thing that I recognize out of this, and this makes us all humans, but it also makes us all crazy at the same time, is emotions and habits. If there's nothing wrong, you know, a lot of us actually are setting good goals, and typically our good goals come with good intentions. But there's nothing easier to mess up your good intentions and good goals, but emotions and habits. They come in and swipe your vision out the way. As soon as, like Kerri alluded to, 6 months, her client was, you know, moving forward, and this is no judgment, but a habit came and swooped her up, and emotion came with fear and swooped up her vision. Yes, she got to enjoy and go on a trip, but now her future her, God willing, she, you know, she's around for a long time, but her future her, is she going to need that finance? Just want to put you in that place where travel, do your thing, but get your emotions under control and get locked in. Because yes, the volatility is going to come. Again, the great thing about having it and having it come so aggressively is now it's a wake-up call that you can take with you year after year, no matter if the year is good or not, and change those habits. Get to a place where you feel like you're really flourishing, and that you have built that resilience over volatility, and you have stabilized yourself and came up with a new financial theme for yourself this year. And let that be your theme. So that way, when you do travel, you're not thinking about money. When you do enjoy, you're not thinking about money, but you're still set up for the future. You know, I think that is an opportunity for a measurable goal in your life overall with future planning. And if nothing else, like Kerri alluded to, you're not guaranteed tomorrow. But if you position your family financially, that's still part of your responsibility. And so I think there's a double-edged sword that everybody can look forward to and create as far as a financial goal is, yeah, you weren't able to do anything future with it, or you are. But the same, somebody needs your stability. Somebody needs your good decisions today. And so that's how, you know, again, after getting to know and listen to Kerri after all these years, that's what I've come to learn. And that's where I would, you know, like to suggest to everybody as far as a new mental shift. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, and you did a great job with that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I learned from you. That's all it is.
Yep, that's good. I'm glad to know that. But yeah, but everything you said, and that kind of brings me to, you know, my final thoughts on all these is, you know, exactly everything that you've said, everything that we've talked about is looking into your future. I know people that have been stressed out, have not had money, but they made a decision to say, I'm not going to live my life like this. And so they focused and planned on wanting to see what they see in the future. And one person in particular, he put his head down for 5 years, said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make these changes. I'm going to do this. And now he is enjoying his life. He's my age and is going to be able to do whatever he wants for the next 40 years that he's alive. And that was because it was a mind set that he wanted something different than the stress that he was going through. And decisions like that are what we have to make today, is set those goals, especially when you have a family And I have a lot of clients, and myself, for one, I do not have children, so I can't really, look at myself in that. But if you have kids, grandchildren, just think of the fun and enjoyment that you're going to have with them once you retire and have that money. So it just all comes down to look at the big picture, focus on long term of what you want, and don't let little things as they happen today change your goals, make you more scared. Whatever the consequence, whatever happens to you, don't let that happen, because in the future you can have a great life. Just plan for it and just look at the positive things that you've done. Know that you can succeed in it, and just think of the opportunities that you've given on this earth that you can be able to take care of and experience in the future. So that's my thought. And I think that ended with a positive note, knowing that everything can be good. Just focus and really work on your goals.
Kerri, I think that's a beautiful way to end the year as far as a conversation and as a motivation for people going into next year. And with all the topics, on behalf of Executive Talk, I want to thank you for your education that you've been able to bring to the viewers and to Executive Talk as a whole, to be such a light when it's been such a volatile year. And your resilience is a great example as to how it needs to get done. So I do appreciate you and your efforts, and always pushing through, seeing the bright light and staying towards that, because again, you're definitely an example as to how resilience works. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you very much. And you are quite appreciated yourself for this. I do appreciate you very much.
You're welcome. Kerri, we'll start up again next year. We'll have some good content for you guys. But let me go ahead, and Kerri, we appreciate you. I know you have to get back to work, so we'll chat with you soon.
All right. Thank you much.
All right. Thank you. And for those watching, thank you again for this year. We've covered a lot of financial information, and this one is a consumption of everything that we have talked about. And it's just been perfect timing for everything that's been presented to us. And I want to offer you the same thing Kerri is doing, which is resilience. I want to offer you stability coming into next year, to look at next year as resilient and stability, and not taking that emotion that you may be having today if you're frustrated. Wipe the tears, dust your shoulders off, and that this time it's time to look and go strong. But going strong means meeting with people like Kerri to actually talk about where you are, time and space, and to make those hard decisions for a year or two to make sure you get back on track. We're here to help you become a victor. We do not want you to become a victim, okay? Because we've seen a lot of it over our time. You probably know some people that have become a victim of finances, and I know you don't want to be there. I know that's why you're so passionate. I know that's why you're here looking for that type of information. So just for you to stay here and listen to us and actually know that there's another day is part of your mental shift. Shows you how assertive you are. And that's what we're looking for out of you, is to be assertive. Talk to Kerri. Let's make some changes going into next year. So I want to thank you all for your time today. But Kerri and we actually have to get back to work. So we'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.